3,500 years ago, after the worldwide flood of Noah's time, before the birth of Christ, God inspired Moses to record history from the beginning. These writings became the first 5 books of the Old Testament.
Okay, today we've got Professor Dave again. Welcome back, Professor Dave.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we've got a terrible creationist documentary and possibly my cat who just jumped on me during the intro thing. So we're just gonna, I guess, get started and let's see what we got.
The flood was an incredible catastrophe, almost beyond what the human mind can comprehend.
This is a catastrophic event of unimaginable proportions. Sedimentation on a global cataclysmic catastrophic scale, burying billions of creatures suddenly in unimaginable amounts of sediment. Look at all the fossils. It's almost like the surface of the earth screams at us, hey, there was a catastrophic event.
If something like that happened, what sort of evidence should that have left behind?
Yeah, so you've heard this one a million times, no doubt.
I mean, okay, which angle do we want to take here? I mean, okay, first of all, precisely zero evidence whatsoever for a global flood. There's no geological evidence for such a thing. Number 2, all the problems with where the hell are you getting all that amount of water from? They have their ridiculous answers about firmament, and some do the underground stuff. I don't know what they're doing. But the most ridiculous one is that like this being their explanation for the fossil record, that everything happened to settle into the geologic column all over the world, and the precise stratification and the precise trilobites are here, and right, every organism being in the exact same strata all over the world, just statistically literally impossible. I just don't understand how anybody can buy this crap.
Well, I mean, the devil put dinosaurs here. That's what you science people don't understand. They actually, so I did sort of cut these parts out a little bit because they were kind of boring, but they do mention the firmament, but they're not flat earthers, so I just wonder how they square that particular circle. I don't know.
Yeah, well, no, yeah, it's just like I don't get it, because it's not like they deny that we went to the moon and stuff like that, right? I don't know, or maybe they do.
No, we did that last time, actually. Yeah, so these, they don't deny that the Earth is round or anything like that. But they do say the firmament thing and for the groundwater, waters of the deep and all that. I cut all that out because it's kind of boring, but yeah, that's how they explain that.
It was also a tectonic catastrophe, large-scale plate motion, migration of the continents by thousands of miles, which means that all the Atlantic Ocean opened up during the flood. The Indian Ocean opened up during the flood, transformation of the Earth's surface.
It is impossible to walk away from the text thinking that this was some type of local Mesopotamian flood.
Is it?
Is it possible? Or is that exactly what it is? If that. It's a very interesting thing to watch young Earth creationists try to like catch up and account for like modern geology and things like that and plate tectonics. They're like, because this is all right, young Earth creationism obviously predates the entire field of geology, so like to appear scholarly, they're going to try to like, okay, no, plate tectonics is a thing, so we're going to pretend that plate tectonics did a thing that's impossible in order to pretend that we're acknowledging plate tectonics in our formulation of creationism, right? Like the continents cannot drift at that rate. That's not how plate tectonics works. So yeah, I don't know.
These guys take a couple of like different. They go in a couple of different directions about things. First of all, science is always wrong and the Bible is always right. If science is right about something and it wasn't directly mentioned in the Bible, it's because God inspired people to get it and all that. They've got any number of explanations that are very much contradictory, but they're apologists. They're used to contradicting themselves for a living. Like that is their whole thing. It's just, I always like to say this to people who talk about the Quran. Like Sabor Ahmad, that guy, he always says, that the Quran discovered certain things before scientists did, and it was, there was no way that somebody could have written these down that far ago. And you find out that actually a lot of these things are just like his modern interpretation of it. And it's the same thing here.
Big bullshit, yeah.
Yeah, so they take the modern evidence and then go backwards from it to reinterpret it as they please. They're not actually the ones discovering it.
Yeah, does the Bible say, and then magma came up through a fissure, and the Atlantic plate moved at this specific rate centimeter? Like, it doesn't describe any of this crap. I don't know what he's talking about.
That's exactly what the Bible says, Dave. I can tell you've never read it. Yeah. It does not say that. It does not say that. But yeah, that's same old story with these people.
The Bible tells us of a worldwide flood that radically changed the climate and devastated the continents thousands of years before scientists would even propose ice ages. The irony being that these same scientists would confirm the possibility of great global floods on planets like Mars, and yet still deny a global flood was possible on Earth.
What global flood on Mars? I don't even know what he's talking about. That there was water on Mars once isn't a flood. I don't know what he's even talking about.
Yeah, so I think they explain it, not in this video, but I've heard them talk about it in other videos. I think these same people did a video where they talk about this, like another documentary by these Answers in Genesis freaks, where they say that the science community has gradually come to this understanding that there was at one point a global flood on Mars, but that's not what anybody's saying, and it's just... No. It seems to be them misinterpreting something about comet swarms early in the solar system,
Oh, yeah, comets bringing water to planets, yeah.
Yeah.
Or just in general, Mars having had water, right, is suddenly a flood.
Yeah. Maybe both of those things.
But then ice ages? What are they talking about? There's no ice age in the Bible. What is he talking about?
They don't even believe in ice ages. Why are they bothering with that?
Yeah,
they don't believe in... Unless it's God-driven climate change, they don't believe in that either, do they?
I think
aren't into that.
At best, somebody went really far north and came back and was like, "Oh, it's cold up there."
It's fucking freezing. Oh my gosh! I wish I had that problem here. I bet you do too. Sometimes you're in California, I believe.
It's pretty hot. Yeah, it's in the 90s this week. I can handle. I don't mind the heat as much.
Well, I didn't in California either, but here it's very humid, and there's no AC, none.
That's rough.
Yeah, this country doesn't have it. UK, for anybody who's wondering about that statement, not in the US.
According to evolution theory, or atheist evolution theory, the Big Bang created everything, gas clouds went everywhere, and stars contracted from gas clouds out of their gravity. Well, it's impossible for stars to contract out of their gravity, because as soon as you get a gas cloud that compressed, it's going to heat up, and hot gases want to expand, and that expansion force is 100 times or more than the force of gravity. That could never happen.
Oh my God, I have so much to say. First of all, the ridiculous, evolution. First of all, you don't have to be an atheist to accept evolution. You can believe in God and accept evolution. Number two, that biological evolution has anything to fucking do with cosmology or astrophysics or anything like that. Number two, where's this factor of 100? I'd love to see the math on that. Yes, there's an outward force. But right. First of all, we can see protostars in telescopes. We can see stars forming right now. We can all go to a telescope and see it. But yeah, there's gravitational pressure, and then once it ignites, you have fusion pressure pushing outwards. That's the balance that results in a star. This is all very trivial stuff that they're working really hard to not understand.
You also have to wonder, if scientists were just making shit up anyway, why would they make up all of these contradictory things that just don't work together? Why would there be paradoxes in science in the first place?
Yeah. Yeah, but more importantly, okay, asshole, how does a star work? Tell me, right? All of physics is wrong. All of astrophysics is wrong. You tell me how a fucking star works.
Jesus magic, obviously.
Jesus magic. Yeah, it's just like you can't say "nuh-uh" to all of science that works and replace it with nothing. It's not how science works.
Well, they sure think they can. Nobody told them that. And this guy is our main feature, by the way. This guy is fantastic. He just everything about him. I forget his name. I looked it up. I'll tell you his name afterwards. But because he's a Liberty University professor. That's the one thing I remember. That's the one thing that's notable enough. You know what Liberty University is, don't you?
A fake Jesus school?
Pretty much. I think it actually is accredited, but it's like it was founded by, I'm pretty sure, Jerry Falwell.
Oh, great.
The televangelist, I think. Mm-hmm. But he's a professor there, and I guess that's the best they can do. That's their top guy, or one of them, aside from that Linux guy. But he's not in this, thankfully. That would be insufferable.
There are all these dog ate my homework stories about how gravity waves from black holes might do a push-pull thing on gas clouds and make this actually happen. But you got a chicken and the egg problem here, because don't black holes come from stars? So you have to get stars in the first place. There are many, many questions in science that have not been answered.
What a dumbass. All matter, there's an attractive force between all matter. You have a bunch of gas, it contracts and forms a protostar. It's really not that hard to understand. I don't know what repulsion. Yeah, it starts to heat up. That doesn't negate gravity. And then just this crap about gravitational waves. I don't know. I'm surprised he didn't start whining about dark matter or something. Yeah.
Anecdotally, I have heard discussions in random science forums about the idea that gravitational waves assisted the process by kicking off star formation, but I don't know if that's really accepted as a solution to this paradox, which is, I gather, not really that pressing of an issue. The black hole thing is also kind of funny, too.
We don't need black holes to exist in order to get stars. That doesn't mean anything.
But so he was saying, like, oh, gravitational waves released from black holes causing the dust to contract and expand and create stars. And he's like, oh, but there couldn't have been any black holes to do that if there were no stars first, since black holes come from stars. I mean,
yeah,
there's
ish. I don't know. I mean, you can get tiny black holes without stars.
You've seeded in the Big Bang. Yeah, that's one explanation for supermassive black holes early in the universe, or intermediate mass black holes, or both of those. Mm-hmm. I'm not a scientist or anything. I just like space.
But there are many questions that have been answered. So far, it's the problem for the evolutionist of the questions that have been answered, like the coalition of the stars, like violating the first law of thermodynamics, that matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed. The Big Bang insists that happened at least once.
The coalition of stars, did he say? I think he meant coalescing. Right?
No, it's a coalition of the willing stars.
My favorite is when creationists pretend to understand thermodynamics. So, yeah, I mean, if you go all the way back to the initial singularity, we don't know. Yeah, we don't know what's going on with that. And so he can have his God of the gaps in the first instant of the universe. That's fine with me. I don't care about that. Everything else is no good. There's no such thing as an evolutionist. It's just people who understand science. There's no violation of thermodynamics in the formation of atoms or stars or anything like that, or life. Nothing of the sort. Yeah.
Or is there? There could be. No, probably not, actually. But also, they always say that thermodynamics thing like it's the most incredible gotcha that hasn't been addressed, like more than probably anything else that they've ever said. Like that's, I mean, it even if we weren't here to point out that the thermodynamics thing only applies to space-time after the Big Bang, that's the kind of thing that, like, most people could probably figure out if given long enough to think it through, and these people think it through for a living. So even if they've never heard anyone say that before, they should probably come to that conclusion on their own. That's, as far as apologetics arguments go, that's an especially weak one, it seems like.
Yeah.
Like,
And I mean, look, you can even like if the universe is some kind of quantum fluctuation, the energy contained in that quantum fluctuation can be borrowed from like a 0 point energy. Like you know what I mean? Like I don't like we don't know that the beginning of the universe was from nothingness, right? There can have been something that it was derived from. Like we just don't know, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of I mean, it's not like the guy has looked into anything regarding cosmology whatsoever, but you know, I don't know.
except to debunk it, I suppose. And not
Yeah.
even then, it doesn't even seem like he's done a lot of research into it, because anybody that understands these subjects to even almost a rudimentary degree, that the very basic level, is going to immediately see problems. I think.
Yeah, it's a big bowl of nothing.
Speaking to the vice president of the Darwin Coalition once, and I said, well, you all believe in spontaneous generation. He said, we do not. I said, yes, you do. You believe it happened at least once, don't you? Why would a smart person be so easily fogged and fooled by a dumb suggestion?
The conflation of spontaneous generation with abiogenesis. The idea that the emergence, the slow and gradual emergence of a protocell is the same as a fucking fly popping into existence out of nothing. Yeah, so the guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what words mean. That's all this is.
But he's so fucking smug about it. It's fantastic. The smarminess of this guy. I've seen this.
And he's in a place. I don't know. Yeah.
I've seen this 2 or 3 times now. I think one time I was cutting it apart to do something with and just never did it. And then this last time, cutting it apart for this video. And each time, this guy has been just the highlight for, like, you know, a lot of people you've responded to will say things like about you being smug or whatever, and it's no, that guy is smug. That guy is like the archetypal example of smugness, but he gets away with it because he's one of them.
It's smug to confidently assert blatantly idiotic things, as though that somehow outweighs actual knowledge, right?
Yeah, and I think that the scientific approach is much better because, you know, when you learn something, and I'm in this sense talking about you, Dave, and also people who watch your channel, you're not assuming you already have all of the answers and then just world building out from there, but rather kind of like going backwards and figuring out, okay, what is it that I don't know, and how do I figure out what I don't know? And I think that process takes a lot more humbleness than people give it credit for. And when you see guys like this, you understand why. But
I mean, all I do is convey what the scientific community has uncovered, right? What we as a species have come to know to be true empirically, right? It's not like you know, they have the challenge of trying to explain how all of science is wrong. All I have to do is use the science we know to explain how they're full of shit. It's I mean, they both have their challenges, but ultimately, right? It's they cannot get anywhere denying science. Like their target has to be actively hostile enough towards science to never look and check anything that they're saying, right? Or they'll find out in 5 seconds it's not reflective of what science really is.
Yeah, which is definitely the case for people who follow stuff like this. Just to give one example here, I know some people in my family went to the Creation Museum and they said they thought that the exhibit sounded downright reasonable. And it's like, yeah, of course you think it sounds downright reasonable. You don't know anything about the science they're, you know, tearing apart. And
you don't have any knowledge to compare it to.
There's no way to know that you are incorrect in your interpretation of their exhibits. Like, if you don't know what it is they're talking about, then they get to build the narrative on that. And that's what they do with stuff like this. And there's another one by the same people, too. And it's same style. Oh, yeah, before I forget, because I'm probably going to forget this if I don't mention it now. There is, during like the intro section and the other animated sections, there is a guy who does the voiceover, and I am dead convinced they got this guy just because he sounds like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like that, I'm convinced that is the reason. I think that first clip I showed of this at the very beginning, you could hear his voice briefly, but next time, if there's another one, you'll probably
I wasn't paying
notice.
attention. I'll keep that in mind for when it happens.
So Andromeda is not just 2 million, 1.5 million light years in spatial displacement over that way, but also it's time stretched. Yes, we're looking at the galaxy of Andromeda as it looked at a previous time, but we're also looking at a galaxy that has experienced more time than we have if we're anywhere closer to the center of the stretching.
So what?
Yeah, I had considerable difficulty understanding that one as well.
I missed the last bit because I had to Google how far away Andromeda is because I wanted to make sure that he wasn't fudging that number. It is 2.5 million light years away, though.
Yeah, he was actually pretty good there. That's like the one thing that he got right in that whole little deranged monologue. So what he was saying is that Andromeda, because it's so far away, has experienced more time than the Earth has. And if we were at the center of the universe, then everything is radiating outwards and we're just seeing everything as it was in the past, but the past is actually very recent somehow. Somehow, if you're in the dead center, that means the universe is 6,000 years old.
Okay, so first of all, there's no center of the universe. That doesn't mean anything. And then younger or older, I mean, the Earth, right? The Earth, our sun is a pop 3 star. Is it? Which pop?
Pop 3 is the first generation of very large, low metallicity stars.
Pop 1 or pop? Yeah, it's pop 1. So yeah, we're way, way, way younger than a lot of other systems. Which makes perfect sense. Yeah, our system came about around 10 billion years into the existence of the universe. So I don't know how you can. You just have to disregard all of that. Obviously, the Earth is the oldest thing. I don't know what Andromeda is supposed to be to him. I don't know what how they're interpreting everything in the entire universe in the context of Earth being the only thing that actually matters. There's just nothing to even say.
Well, I think what he was getting at, even though he expressed this very poorly, even in the longer version of that clip, which this guy likes, he likes hearing himself talk, which I do too. I can't blame him for that. I mean, I like hearing myself talk, not him. But what he was trying to express with that thought is that somehow, if there is a center of the universe and you put the Earth in there, then everything around it, no matter how far in space it seems to be, actually happened less than 6,000 years ago. And I don't think there is any law of space or time that would allow for such extreme time dilation.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not even time dilation. It's just nothing can move that fast. So I don't really know. Yeah. It's worth it.
I guess that's a good point, too. Jesus. But see, that so much bullshit. You get wrapped up in one explanatory thing, and you miss like a dozen others. Jesus Christ! Infinite layers of bullshit, isn't it?
William Tift, who back about 40 years ago discovered something interesting in the redshifts of galaxies. The universe consists of concentric shells of galaxies, and we're near the center of that. If we're placed there by God for some reason, that's what you might expect. Astronomers more or less have ignored Tift's work over the years, and yet actually it's staring them in the face.
Okay, so none of that is true at all. There are no concentric spheres or circles of galaxies. We're not at the center of anything. We're not at the center of our cluster. We're not at the center of our supercluster. And also the map of galaxies available to us is the observable universe. There's a limited radius to how far we can observe, and we don't know what's beyond that. So we have no idea spatially how close or far. I mean, well, and then in terms of just topography, there cannot be a center of the universe. It's like asking where the center of the surface of the Earth is, right? It doesn't mean anything. So all of that is fantastically wrong. End of story. I don't know.
As is a tradition. Yeah, I couldn't really figure out what he was saying with that either, except it just... I mean, isn't the universe remarkably... let's see, what's the word? Homogeneous?
Homogeneous. I mean, it's true that that galaxies are sort of aggregated on sort of like threads and spindles. So there are regions. So it's not like strictly homogeneous. It's not like everywhere in the universe galaxies are like equidistant. There are pockets, little kind of bubbles of far less galaxy density, and then they're kind of, but there's no there. I mean, they're not concentric spheres. That's for sure. That's 100% false. There's no data he could ever point to that would indicate that. So
I just wonder, like, what, the idea of the universe, the Earth being at the center of the universe, that's obviously a very old one for creationists and Christians and people of other religions. It's not just limited there. But, like, I gotta wonder what a universe based on that model would look like, because they never really explain what that would look like if we didn't know what we know now. But obviously, just based on how it seemed to work hundreds of years ago, it's a very different picture than science is now painting. So, if they were saying the Bible was correct back then, and look at the stars, can't you see it? The Bible is correct because of the orientation of the stars or whatever. Well, now we know things are a little bit more complicated, but they never really address that, do they?
Yeah, I mean, geocentrism already became incompatible with observation in like the 15th, 16th century, when we didn't understand virtually anything about our cosmic surroundings, right? That was when we knew there was a few planets and then some stars, right? The stars that were visible to the naked eye in our little neighborhood, galactic neighborhood. But then from early 20th century on, like from Hubble on, where we discovered that the extent of the galaxy and that it is one of many, many galaxies, the geocentrism just becomes increasingly more and more absurd. The more we start to, it already was incompatible with reality 500 years ago. So today it's just like utterly inconceivable. And they have to do all of these mental gymnastics and just lie out of their asses, inventing concentric spheres of the galaxies and things to make it still true to them, and it's not.
Spiral galaxies would be a good example. They actually spin more rapidly at the center and more slowly out at the edges. Obviously, if this thing spins around several times, it starts smearing out the spiral arms. And as that happens, you would spin it out to the point you would end up with this amorphous disk. They think these galaxies are at least 10 billion years old. So these things would be entirely smeared out. But in 6,000 years, not much smearing taking place. In billions of years, it's a problem. Thousands of years, not a problem.
Okay. So first of all, elliptical galaxies exist, right? Spiral galaxies evolve into elliptical galaxies. More due to galactic collisions, I think, than anything else, but maybe from what he's talking about as well. But then he's like, not much has changed, not much smearing in 6,000 years. When did we start using telescopes? A couple hundred years ago. So I don't know what it is, right? I mean, it's like how much? Provide me a model, creationist man, for how quickly the arms of a spiral galaxy are supposed to smear with math in it. Go. Right? It's like, what are you talking about?
Okay, I think that he may have been, I'm not totally confident about this because they don't use their terms very carefully, but he may have been trying to say that it's not a problem for if the universe is 6,000 years old, but it's a problem if the universe is 14 billion years old. I think that may be what he was trying to say, but I'm not completely sure.
A spiral galaxy retaining having its spiral shape at this point in the cosmic timeline doesn't make sense, is what he's saying, right?
They don't make their points very clear, do they?
No, but more importantly, it's just like, look, you can just look it up. Right? I mean, galaxies formed, they didn't all form at once, right? They formed at different times. And number two, yes, as galaxies get older, they have a tendency to become elliptical.
Another thing is, like, he's also trying to somewhat downplay dark matter as an explanation for galaxies maintaining their shapes over long periods of time, and their spin, specifically on, like, the outer edges. I think that may have been an implication he was making there as well.
Yeah, well, he didn't even. Yeah, well, that's also just a lie, right? Because the perimeter, the perimeter of the galaxy spins rotates faster than we would expect, which was the first indicator of the existence of dark matter. And people who deny dark matter pretend that that's the only thing, the only datum we're going on, which is false. But it was like that anomaly was the first indicator of dark matter.
But you can't see dark matter, so it must not exist. What? What's that you just said about God? Huh? I didn't hear that.
Other planets in our solar system testify to a young universe as well. Both the density and magnetic field of Mercury cannot allow for millions of years. In 1984, Russell Humphreys correctly calculated the magnetic fields of Uranus and Neptune, several years before the Voyager 2 satellite would measure them. Humphreys used a vital clue from the Bible, that the universe was made only 6,000 years ago.
Okay, so all of that's made up, right? I don't know. By the way, he does sound a little like Neil. Not exactly, but yeah, there's some similarity.
Fairly close. I mean, you know, you really, these productions, I'm not accusing them of being racist by any means, but these productions are usually very, very white. And the one black man being a voiceover that sounds suspiciously like Neil deGrasse Tyson at times, it's a little bit, it's not unequivocal, but it raises some red flags. I mean, I've seen whole documentaries by these people where they've just got like a litany of white people and nothing else. So I do think that may be a factor. It's authority. They want
you
his
don't know
authority.
he's black. That's racist, by the way.
Ah, damn. Wouldn't it be bad if I looked him up? I've seen him. I know what they're doing. They can't fool me. But yeah, so this is another common creationist argument that they'll use about this guy figuring out Mercury before the scientists did. But you actually look it up and you find out that like this guy was off by orders of magnitude, apparently. Like his estimate was just, it had incredibly, phenomenally large margins of error. They're just, it's like Linux math, John Linux, that is, that mathematician guy that always backs up the creationists.
This whole evolutionary concept that life came from non-life, it actually violates a law of science. It is one of the only laws in biology. It's called the law of biogenesis. It says that life comes from life, not non-life.
The law of biogenesis that says all life comes from pre-existing life, and yet evolution says that life can come from non-life. Surprise, if you just wait long enough.
But you know what? We see no examples of that today. We can't observe it. We can't repeat it. People just believe it blindly.
It's not blind. Life is here. How did it get here? Science doesn't go, duh, God, obviously. We look for naturalistic explanations, and we've become a lot more successful at figuring out how it could have happened, despite what James Tour or anybody like that will tell you. Law of biogenesis. Okay, life begets life. We look at life, and it does that. So what? Where did life come from? That's a scientific question. They're just saying science exists, therefore we can't know more science than that. Is basically all they're saying.
But you know, when you think about it for just even a couple seconds, that's also like, okay, well, you still have a problem if biogenesis is like an immutable law because, you know, I mean, not the way they're talking about it, not the way it's actually formulated, but the way they're conceptualizing it, because life, even if God created it, it still had to come from non-living things, essentially. I mean, we are made of things living and non, but there's a lot of, like, at the very base level, it's going to be non-living things, which is like, you know, atoms and shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not alive. They're not alive.
Life begets life does not contradict life arising initially from non-living matter. There's no contradiction there. And why don't we see it? Okay, sorry. Number one, life already exists that consumes all organic matter. So it's going to be difficult for that to happen again. Number two, nobody says it like happens super easily all the time. Right? It could be a relatively rare event. I don't know. I mean, we just don't know. Right? Well, if we find life on Europa or something like that, we'll be like, okay, so maybe it's like not that hard. But maybe it's a very uncommon occurrence. I don't know.
We haven't even really looked that hard or that far yet. We're barely, out there in the cosmos at all.
My suspicion would be that there could be microbial life within our solar system. I don't know. Maybe there's not. So,
I think that's a pretty good suspicion. We do see amino acids everywhere we look. We see water everywhere we look. The ingredients are there, so why not?
Sure. I mean, it is still remarkable, right? If you look at systems chemistry and, autocatalysis and just like it's incredible. That the ingredients are there doesn't guarantee it, but still, I would be. It's too much to believe that it's not happening in other places in the galaxy. I would believe that microbial life is fairly commonplace. Intelligent life probably dramatically less so, but I refuse to believe that it's not happening in other places.
Well, geez, I hope we're not alone out there. That's all I can say. It seems a lot more unthinkable to me, the idea that we are alone, than that there's life all throughout the cosmos. I know a lot of people, these creationists will say that, well, we don't have any proof that it's out there, so it must not be. You would have expected to find it somewhere by now, but I don't think so. I think it's just...
Find it somewhere all of where? The moon and Mars? What are you talking about?
We live in a very large universe. Hell, we haven't even really been able to properly check Mars or the moon, really.
Yeah. I mean, the moon, I don't see how that would work. The Mars, possibly, certainly previously... but yeah, my best bet would be Europa or Enceladus. That would be if I was a betting man.
Well, see, to find the moon men, you just got to drill down to the core. You got to go way down there.
Yeah,
where the Nazis fled after World War II.
Right.
Or wait, that was on Earth. Sorry, mixing up my lores a little bit here.
The odds for 250 parts coming together, that is 2 times 10 raised to the 476th power. That is going to be a 2 with 476 zeros following after it. That's the odds for the first cell to come into existence.
Scary numbers. I love how they always have to explain for their math illiterate audience what exponents are, right? They're like, because you don't know what an exponent is, it's all these zeros after the number. It's like, and then they're like, wow, cool. Where'd you get that calculation, dipshit? I'd like to see that written out formally instead of just baselessly asserting a random number. And I'd also like to know what kind of cell you're talking about, because I know you're talking about a fucking yeast cell or some shit like that. A eukaryotic cell that's the product of billions and billions of years of evolution. Never changes with these guys.
I think the layman's approach, because I unfortunately have known a lot of creationists. I come from a very fundamentalist area, and my little thing that I like to go to for it is when they bring up the big numbers. There is a 100% chance that the matter that makes up me will be somewhere in some configuration 24 hours from now. The odds that it will be in any one configuration, in any one place, vanishingly small, just beyond any possible plausible calculation. But it will be there. And that's the law of big numbers. You can make anything sound ridiculous by assigning arbitrarily large numbers to them.
Yeah. I like to use the birthday analogy. Like if you have 10 people in a room, what are the odds that they would all have the birthdays that they do? And it's some astronomical number. It's like, well, we're all fucking sitting here, aren't we?
Here's another way in which young people are being conned. When they read their textbooks and it's talking about changes in finches' beaks or changes you see in dogs, the word evolution is used. But then the word evolution is also used for molecules to man. So it's a bait and switch.
Oh, Ken, you fucking con man, telling people that they're being conned. No, they don't call molecules to man. I mean, what textbook is he even talking about? From molecules to from unicellular to man. Yeah, they call that evolution because it is. I don't know. I don't even know what he's trying to say here.
Okay, so I guess I can translate on this one. He's saying he's pulling out the familiar micro versus macro evolution thing.
And throwing abiogenesis in there as well.
Yeah, he's doing a little bit of everything. Molecules to man is just a fancy way of saying it, basically. It's part of their standard repertoire of silliness. Yep. I think you've said it before that enough microevolution leads to macroevolution.
Yeah, that's a leaky faucet can fill up a bucket. It can also fill up a fucking swimming pool.
Alan Fiducia, the head of biology at UNC Chapel Hill, says that it will be the paleontological embarrassment of the 20th century, the idea that birds evolved from dinosaurs. They're not a related lineage at all.
Alan Fiducia, like, why does this guy talk like this? So this is all they do. Like, this guy said this thing, which may be a real guy or not, and maybe said it or not. Therefore, it's true, and all of paleontology is wrong. I don't know. That's your way of negating the entire fossil lineage from raptors to modern birds. Good job. I don't know.
It does kind of give you a window into how they're thinking about this stuff, though, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That they're used to listening to their pastors or whatever talk about the Bible authoritatively, and they're used to just like believing that person. So yeah, I mean, they assume that everybody else works the same way. That it's about the authority figures. That you got to listen to this guy because he's a scientist, much like you got to listen to this guy because he's your pastor. I think that's the general idea.
But don't listen to any other scientist, only this one who may or may not exist.
And it should also be noted that I did look up that person. He is a real person, real scientist, and isn't denying evolution, just thinks that birds branched off from a different group than is consensus today. Shocker. Imagine that. He's not even backing up the point that they think he is.
Dragon is more of an overarching term. It would include flying reptiles, sea reptiles, as well as things like dinosaurs. Now, when it comes to evidence of dinosaurs and man living at the same time, believe it or not, we actually have an immense amount. When we actually look at ancient histories from various cultures,
we get very detailed descriptions. Those are creatures that today, in our modern world, we would call dinosaurs.
You want to share one of those with us, big guy? No? I wonder why. Because it's not talking about fucking dinosaurs. I don't know.
Or maybe because they are. Well, actually, it could be a bit of both. Dinosaur bones that cultures have found in the past, misconstrued into dragons, or it could just be, modern reptiles that they've incorrectly assumed are, dragons, or just used as archetypes for dragons.
Yeah. And then also, I'm sorry, but stories versus the entire field of paleontology, it's not really a fair fight there.
But wow, these three cultures on the planet have stories about dragons. Doesn't that convince you that dragons are real and actually dinosaurs?
So why don't we find dinosaur remains alongside human remains literally ever?
That is a good question. They're not going to answer that one.
Yeah.
They're not going to answer that one. They don't.
No.
He does. They play a little animation after this, and the little animation, they don't give you the thing that he was implying they're going to give you, which is evidence that humans and dinosaurs live next together. They don't give you that because they don't have it.
You just said we have a lot of evidence. Trust me, bro.
He said it. He said the thing and didn't show the thing immediately after that, or even reference it. Just there's stories about dragons. Well, okay. Yeah, there's stories about Godzilla, too. There's not a Godzilla. I hope not. Or actually, that might be kind of cool if there were.
My daughter came back from her kindergarten class when she was younger. She brought home a book that said that dinosaurs lived 100 million years ago.
That is just an assertion. They're just saying it. They didn't observe this. You can't repeat this. It is man, fallible, imperfect men who separate man from dinosaurs by somewhere in the neighborhood of about 65 million years now. You either start with what God has to say or you start with what man has to say. God, who has always been there, he's perfect, he's infallible. He's the one who says
that people and dinosaurs walk the earth together.
Oh, dear God. Infallible men, huh? You mean like the ones who wrote your God book? And you didn't see any of that shit happening? And you're a fucking hypocrite piece of shit? I don't know, man.
Going for the jugular, my guy. Wow.
Yeah.
It is so silly, though. Jesus Christ, dude. Hey, it's good to have some laughter in there.
Yeah. I mean, like address the science, right? Address geology, address the geologic column, address strata, address carbon dating, right? Of course, I mean, they have their or not carbon dating, but, various radiometric dating methods, right? They have their stock responses to that too, but they're not even throwing them out here. We're not pulling numbers out of our ass. We're doing science. So address the science that we do, or shut up,
Yeah, one funny thing they say at one point is, and I forget, I don't know if I have this included in here, so if the clip appears later, I'll just cut that out. But one of the things that they said is like that all the different scientific fields are assuming that all the other ones have the evidence that they don't to prove the atheist worldview is correct. Mm-hmm. What does that even mean?
Meanwhile, most scientists are not atheists.
They don't want you to remember any of these things. Mm-hmm. Scientists can't be Christians unless they adhere to my narrow view of what it means to be a scientist or a Christian.
They started to use the fossils, certain fossils called index fossils, to date a rock layer. Oh, well, that rock layer is this old because we know that the rock layers that have those fossils are this old. Well, you might ask, how'd they know how old the fossils were? Good question. They didn't. They were making assumptions about the history of life. That assumption is just invalid.
No, we have the same strata all over the world, right? And so we can compare these strata, and it's not right. And it's only one datum, right? When you're comparing to index fossils, there are other data that you collect and compare, and when those data corroborate one another, that corroborates the age of the object. So,
and I think that was the clip I was talking about just a second ago, or maybe it wasn't. I don't know. One thing they do in this documentary. I cut literally everything I could that involves them making some form of argument, and I was expecting it to be like 50 or so minutes worth of footage. There's like 15, and the rest is just them either repeating the same things, having these fancy graphic things with the fake Neil deGrasse Tyson guy, or just doing the last like 20 minutes of the whole documentary is just like a actual come to Jesus. They really phoned it in for this one. Like when I watched it to cut it apart, I was expecting a lot more in terms of actual arguments about these subjects.
In fact, 75% of the Earth's land surface is made up of sedimentary layers, which are rock layers that are formed in water. Geologists also confess that the world is riddled with massively eroded features, like the Grand Canyon in America, the Blyde River Canyon in South Africa, and the Capertee Valley in Australia. And yet, they still refuse to acknowledge a worldwide flood.
Why does there have to be a worldwide flood in order for a local geological feature to have been created by erosion? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and also, wouldn't you expect them to be like over entire continents if something like that dramatic were to happen over entire continents?
Yeah. Why isn't the whole world geologically identical if everything was carved by the same historical event?
The same exact process over an entire planet? You'd think that'd have like pretty uniform results.
Yeah.
But
plus he's pretending that this kind of sedimentation can happen like that, which it doesn't. So,
well, yeah, we know it doesn't happen instantly, but in this worldview, I guess, just think about like how short of a time period they're even talking about here. Regardless of, I mean, for something to like have that much of an effect all over the world all at once, you're gonna have way bigger problems. Like, is anything going to exist afterwards? Is there going to be a planet left at all? We're talking about a cataclysm that's just beyond anything the planet has experienced since its formation as the scientists understand it, let alone...
But Noah and his boat, he's got some stuff on that boat.
Yeah, that wooden boat sure did survive a lot of crazy happenings.
Yeah.
Like,
how did they do plants? Like, how did we get all the trees and shit again? That's what I've never heard them explain that.
How did sloths make it all the way across the world from Mount Ararat, and how tired were they when they got there?
Yeah, and kangaroos, of course. Yeah, all that shit.
Sloths, kangaroos, various snakes,
Freshwater fish.
Lots of snakes. Yeah, freshwater fish. What did they swim across the ocean? Man. The sad thing is the people who need to hear these things will never hear them probably, but...
No, they do. They're Young Earth creationism has a high rate of exit. Definitely. I get emails pretty frequently, actually. People are like, I watched your, stuff. Like, shit. Thank you. Yeah.
That's a good point. I hadn't considered that, but it does make some sense. Like, if you are invested enough in your religion and, like, specifically the fundamentalist, hardcore interpretation of it, that you get into creationist stuff, it makes sense that you'd find, like, the counter to that, and then find that to be actually kind of reasonable compared to what you've been hearing your whole life.
That's why I made that 4-hour or however long it was, definitive guide to debunking creationism or something like that. Just as a singular source for people like that who, if they watch it, going to be pretty hard to stay in that world.
Yeah, I mean, you got to wonder, it makes you wonder if, like, maybe the creationist movement is doing itself huge amounts of harm by even putting out things like that, if they're just opening the door to, actual science unintentionally. Maybe they're harming their own cause.
Yeah, that's almost true. Yeah, by even referencing things like formation of stars and like geological, formations and things like that, that people might actually like try to learn about them.
Fossils are actually not the evidence of the history of life. It's the evidence of the death of all life during Noah's flood and how those things got buried. There are sea creatures all the way through the rock record, and we find sea creatures on the tops of all of our highest mountains. There are sea creatures on the tops of the Himalayas, the Alps, the Andes, the Rockies. How'd they get up there?
Orogeny? Yeah, orogeny is like a tectonic event that forms a mountain range.
Huh. I've never heard that before. That's a new term. Cool.
Yeah. So obviously, whenever the Indian plate crashed into the Eurasian plate, all of that oceanic crust got pushed up, formed the Himalayas. That's why you have those fossils up there. It's very well explained, and this dork never even Googled it. Or he did, or he's pretending he didn't.
Yeah, I've heard about the processes, but I didn't know there were like specific words for them. That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like they think that scientists think that mountains always existed or something. Like mountains, there are no newer mountains. They've just always been there or something like that. Yeah. That seems to be the implication.
God went, there shall be mountains there, and that's it. Yeah. No, there's geological processes by which mountains form, and the oceanic crust gets pushed up to form them. So,
yeah, mountains didn't always exist, and now they do. It's awesome. I love mountains. They're really cool looking.
Learning is neat.
I grew up in the mountains. I don't actually like them at all.
A lot of people think the biblical chronology couldn't be true because the Bible says the earth is 6,000 years old.
That's very, very different than saying the earth is 4.5 billion years old.
How do we know it's 4.5 billion years? Because it's only ever stated. It's 4.5 billion years. We know that. Well, how do you know that? Radioactive dating.
Yeah, you could read the literature, right? You can learn anything ever. Right? These idiots pretend that scientists do what preachers do. They don't. Preachers blindly assert things. Scientists don't do that. So they're projecting what preachers do onto scientists very unsuccessfully. Two things. Fine, you want to understand the science behind the 4.6 billion year old date. Totally legitimate. So do it. So learn about it. Learn about zircon crystals. Learn about, uranium-based radiometric dating. Just learn about it. But number two, 6,000 years old. God damn it. There are trees that are older than that are alive today. There's plenty of archaeology. The oldest we have is Göbekli Tepe, which is something like 10,000 years ago or something like that. We have remains of human civilizations older than 6,000 years. Anyone who thinks the Earth is 6,000 years old is a fucking idiot. Now, if you want to learn about the true age, that's more sophisticated. You have to learn geology, you have to learn some physics, you have to learn things, but no one's stopping you. So,
yeah, they're definitely hoping that nobody actually watching tries to find out how scientists actually come up with these numbers, that it's not just pulled out of their asses.
No evolutionist uses carbon-14 because even if it worked the way they thought it did, it can only go out to 110,000 years max, even using the new accelerator mass spectrometer method.
You should not find any carbon-14 in anything older than 100,000 years should have even one atom we could detect. The fact that people are routinely finding significant levels of C14 in all these different fossils indicates something wrong with dating methods.
They're not using carbon to date there are dozens of different nuclides that we use to do radiometric dating. To get the date of the Earth, there's a lot of uranium lead dating. We can also do potassium argon dating. There are a lot of different nuclides that we use. And then as for finding carbon-14 in fossils, do they understand what the concept of a half-life is, right? Just because that there's such a little amount that we can't use it to reliably date things, it doesn't mean it isn't there. There's going to be a lot of half-lives before it's completely gone.
All of those, including carbon-14, depend on four basic assumptions. One, you somehow have to be able to estimate the original amount of the parent isotope. Two, you have to somehow calculate the original amount of the daughter isotope. There are little detective forensic ways, but no truly scientific method, rigorous ways to actually determine the beginning of that rock.
You have to somehow, this guy, I cannot stand this guy's voice. It's not really an assumption, right? We know the rate at which carbon-14 is produced by cosmic rays, and then we, as living organisms, ingest trees, people, whatever, right? Take carbon-14 in at a reliable rate based on biological processes, right? It's not a blind assumption. I suppose you could call it an assumption, but it's an assumption based on just that the Earth is always the way the Earth is, right? Why would the atmosphere, what's changing about how cosmic rays work over a few thousand years? What's changing about the atmosphere over a few thousand years, right? It's not going to be appreciably different.
Pressure, magnetic fields, and heat can change the decay rates. Radioactive lutetium decays 9 trillion times faster in the plasma state, and evolutionists, Big Bang theorists, believe the whole universe began in the plasma state.
Okay, no, the decay rates do not change. I don't know what he's talking about there. And then everything began in a plasma state. No, that's also not true. And number two, at the beginning of the universe, we had just subatomic particles, and then at 100,000 years later, Big Bang nucleosynthesis was pretty soon after, but we only got hydrogen and helium. So whatever the hell nuclide he's even talking about, what do the decay rates of things in the early universe have fucking anything to do with dating the Earth, which formed 10 billion years after the initial singularity? I don't know what he's even talking about.
Well, this is just what they do. Obviously, just conflating things over and over. It's like that thing with Mars. One of the things I wonder about that is, so let's assume that Mars could have really been flooded entirely over at one point in time. So what? Fun fact, Mars is not the Earth. They're different things. So this case is very similar. They're different places in time. Different things are happening at different times. what? When would that have been exposed to a plasma state in the last, 4.5 billion years to be detectable anyway?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't
I don't
it have
think he
just...
knows what plasma is.
Yeah, I mean, is he saying that it, like the thing itself, was in a plasma state, or that it was like surrounded by something in a plasma state? I don't even think he knows what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, is he still talking about carbon? Like, when is carbon going to be plasma?
Oh, he mentioned
Right.
lutetium or something.
In 2005, Mary Schweitzer, a paleontologist and evolutionist, made the first popularized discovery of soft tissues in a dinosaur bone, which include blood vessels and cells, DNA, and proteins, all of which decay quickly. Mary Schweitzer herself said, "This flies in the face of everything we understand about how tissues and cells degrade. I can't explain it, to be honest."
Okay, I'm wondering if that's a direct quote or not, but at any rate, it has certainly been explained, right? It was just there's a dramatic difference in decay rate in aqueous environment versus tucked away in desiccated bone. So that's the answer.
And they've dragged Mary Schweitzer's name through the mud for decades now, saying shit like this. I like how they acknowledge implicitly that she is not a creationist. They like back her up by saying, see, she's legit. She's one of those secular evolutionist scientists, probably even an atheist, Stalinist, communist, fascist, or whatever it is they want to do.
Trans too.
Yeah, probably trans and a trans lesbian on top of that, and who knows? Who knows what else they can? I'm sure they can think of things all day. But they say, okay, she's legit. See, she's one of theirs. She's not one of ours. She's legit. Yeah. But that doesn't really back up your case. I think if she remained on the side of science after making a scientific discovery, rather than going over to your side, I think that says something about the quality of the science on your side. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah, even if we couldn't explain this, which we can, one anomalous discovery doesn't undo the entire edifice of scientific knowledge. Right? It's ridiculous.
Many textbooks say the peppered moth, industrial melanism in England, is evolution. Well, if that's all evolution is, I believe. The dark-colored peppered moths actually were more camouflaged than the light-colored peppered moths. As a result, the birds could see them and eat them for lunch a lot easier. It's not an evolutionary event at all. It's a natural selection event. Natural selection means to pick or choose, to select from what is already there. Traits that were already there, genetic information that was already there. This process will never get you. Monkeys turn into people. This process can't make one step in that.
Okay, no, monkeys never turned into people, so we're going straight for that. That's creationist trope number one. But no, evolution is how you get the variety. They weren't just magically the different colors. There's some genetic change that gives you the diversity from which natural selection can act. So, yeah.
I also had to do something of a double take when he tried to differentiate evolution and natural selection. I know they are not exactly the same thing, but the way he tried to do it seemed like a very underhanded way there. It was just a very odd statement to be making. If that's all evolution is, then I believe.
I believe, yeah.
I believe.
Cool. Welcome to science, then.
Cool. Welcome aboard, champ.
The types of changes that we're seeing that lead to variation with kinds are not the types of changes that are required by evolution. There is variation within the kind, but not evolution of one kind becoming another kind.
So what the fuck is a kind?
That, I feel like that elicits a Pavlovian response from me at this point.
Yeah.
I hear the word kinds and I immediately just, my ears perk up. The hair on my back stands up like a cat,
Yeah. As I told Kent Hovind in my opening statement when I debated him, if kind means species, then you are wrong. We have observed speciation events. We have observed new kinds. And if kind means any other kind of taxon, then it does not need to create a new kind, as new species will always be nested within the hierarchy that they are already in.
Well, kind is just basically one of these terms they use that has no fixed meaning, and they just change it willy-nilly to be about whatever they're talking about. It's their way of invalidating any idea they don't like regarding species and clades and whatever else. It's like a catch-all for, hey, we don't believe you. That's they use it for whatever purposes. Thanks for joining me, Dave. I am sorry to put you through this again, my guy, with these wonderful, fantastic people who we all love.
Yeah, I didn't know there were so many of these guys. That one with the annoying voice. I gotta know who that one is. I gotta debunk that jerk again.
I believe.
Insufferable, these people.
I will send you his name, and until we meet again, thank you for being here, my guy.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Professor Dave, everybody.